Hey, welcome back to Wise Guys Barbecue Podcast. I'm Charlie, the left side. This is Big Vin Picaro, the right side, and we are here to talk about some very interesting things. We're going to hit up the relationship of meat and food on The Sopranos, one of our favorite shows of all time.
Yep.
And then maybe we'll get into a little bit about this World Barbecue Championship that we've been hearing some rumors about.
Oh, yeah.
That's supposed to take place in Vegas in a year or so.
Yeah, we have to talk about that. Actually, people are pinging us to get information, which is never a good idea. Remember what we told you folks when we started these things? We're the Wise Guys Barbecue Podcast, but we're not very wise.
Yeah.
So we might be the wrong people to ask. However, it's amazing just the information that's swirling around this. So we'd love to tell you what we know, which is not much because nothing's official yet because they're still creating it. But what we're hearing and what people are telling us. So we'll talk a little bit about it because it's really interesting. I agree. But yeah,
let's talk about Satriali's in the Sopranos.
Well, it's amazing, right? So I mean, I'm enjoying this college break, winter break, and because Luke, my 19-year-old, has started watching The Sopranos. I think he's through maybe third season already, and
he's like, "Oh my God, when did this show come on?"
So being old and being Italian, he comes back to me for all the real. What does this mean? What does that mean? Like, and it's funny because the show does a great job.
Daddy, what's a gumad?
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much where it starts and ends. But no, it's funny because the show does a really good job portraying what would be the mafia era in New England, New York, Connecticut. However, I don't really even know that there's a mafioso criteria in this country.
There's no such thing as the mafia.
I agree. And then the last people that would know about it would be Hollywood, really, right? But it's funny. There's part of the show that I learned, which is really the back end of the show. It's from Chris Moltisanti and Bobby, forget his last name, Bacala. Thank you. Have a podcast, and they had 88 episodes. Every episode, 86 episodes they covered, and then they threw 3 others
in real life.
In real life, they sit there for about an hour. They have some guests on the show, and they talk to you about the episode, the writing, the creation, and it's amazing. And you find out a lot of stuff in the back end of what's going on. And one of the parallels they made is like it seemed like there was a period of time where real life started following Hollywood in the mafioso world of how hits went down and how groups were maybe settled up. But it's very interesting. But
just to interject, I don't mean to cut you off.
No. That's what we're doing.
When you talk about, and I know I turned you onto this a while ago, but the film The Offer, about how The Godfather was made and how they actually, were in New York and got one of the big high level people in one of the families was like the consultant.
Yes.
And would literally like show up and say, "Hey, you can't do that."
Can't say that. That's too real.
You're making us look stupid here, or things like that.
Yep.
And it's a fantastic show. So if you get a chance, watch The Offer. Very interesting. We're talking about Hollywood and the mob getting together.
It was fantastic. That was absolutely fantastic. And it's funny because, so I field all the questions I can from Luke, and I tell him, what's a bust out and why, and how does it come around? They have a hard time understanding the realities of life and how it can therefore be, a crime element. You know what I mean? And how do you say that?
Satriali's.
That was one of the bust outs that happened in the show. And honestly, I didn't even realize it until this time. I've watched the show now probably 4 or 5 times, complete through every episode. And there are 2 other bust outs in the show, the bar that Adriana gets and the sporting good facility.
Yeah, and the guy's what's his name? The guy's restaurant.
Yeah, but that wasn't a bust out. It was blown up because they didn't want to have it. They didn't want to have a hit there. They didn't
That's
want.
right.
They didn't want.
He didn't want to get. He didn't want to
The
get him in
uncle-
trouble.
Yeah, the uncle was going to have a hit there, and they didn't want
Right.
him to suffer a gang-lanced hit in his place.
Ruin his business.
Ruin his
So
business.
we burn it down.
Well, first he tried to send him on a cruise. He said, "Here are 2 tickets. Take your wife. Go on a cruise. Relax.
Adi.
Enjoy." Adi.
Adi
And I
Bucco.
was like, "No, I can't do that. His business was doing great." And then I don't know why it made sense from I'll send you on a cruise or I'll blow you up, but we ended up with blow up, and that was that. It wasn't a
They got tired of thinking about it.
bust up. It was a blow up. But you know, in the fact of the show, I kind of reflect back. I help Luke with all the little things he misses, some of the language, some of the arrogance, and then some of just the criteria of power in a room. You know, where people sit and why is really interesting. And they do. David Chase does a great job portraying it in the show too. So kudos to how he created it. And I think that's why a lot of people like me can go back and watch it over and over again, because you find out more things every time you watch it. It's not just, yeah, I've seen this before, right? You know,
No, you can start paying attention to little things. Like once you've watched it through a couple times, if you read something you want to pay attention to, like a direction they were going in, you can pay specific attention to how the characters are and what they're saying, where you might have glossed over it.
Yep.
The first time around.
100%. And that's where, like, I asked Luke right away, I go, you get the premise of the show, right? And he's like, yeah, Tony Soprano. Yeah, Tony Soprano. And, what? Being a wise guy of Connecticut. No, it's his.
New Jersey, Connecticut, whatever.
I'm sorry.
It's New Jersey. It's all right.
Did I say Connecticut a few times now? It's New Jersey. Sorry, Connecticut. You're welcome, New Jersey. For sure, in the show, it's Tony's inability to get over the authority of a woman, right? You have his mother who shadows him from birth, and then you have the Dr. Melfi who has the same thing, and his wife who has the same thing, and even his gumads. The gumads that he picks ends up being these.
Oh, they torture him.
They torture him. They control him in so many different ways, and that's his outlet from the other 3 events. But like that's where it starts. I mean, if you think about the show, you think about the joke. A man walks into a psychiatrist's office, and that's where it starts.
And there's the whole thing. In that lifestyle, it's a patriarchy. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's all male, ultra testosterone, and here's this guy that's head of the family, and he finds himself underneath the heel of all these different women. In his
exactly.
In his life.
That's why he gravitates towards this world, right? Because in that world, he's
boss.
top dog, right?
Yeah.
He's the boss, and but after he leaves there, he goes home. Maybe not so much, or he goes to the doctor's office, or he goes to see his mother, or even his sister Janice.
Worn down to the nub.
Oh yeah, he's just it's ridiculous. But so that's the first thing I point out to Luke, and then I point out the other thing out of fun, right? Because of Gabagool, I can't tell you if you guys seen the memes on Instagram of Gabagool. It's everywhere, right? It's just they just show every person saying in their own different environment, Gabagool, Gabagool. And it's more than a haha joke and a funny Italian word for Italian, cold cut meat. It's huge in the show because Tony stopped being a little kid and kind of got introduced to what his father did in this mob world.
When did that happen?
It was it was year 1, episode 10, where they had a flashback scene where young Tony is with Uncle Junior and Tony Boy Soprano, the dad, and they go to Cetronelli's, if I'm saying it correctly, and they go in there to collect money on the gambling debt of the owner. And he always, so Tony, while he was collecting his debt, he always had these standing, orders for his wife. Weekly, he would get, different meats and different cold cuts delivered to the house. And I guess the owner of the place thought he was doing enough, and whenever he wanted to slide a little bit on his payments, he could. But that wasn't going to play with Tony Boy. So for sure, the dad decides to teach him a lesson in this episode, and he cuts off his pinky finger. And in doing so, young Tony who was supposed to stay in the car, gets out of the car and walks in and sees the guy lose his finger. The father
I don't know
starts
why
screaming.
I'm laughing.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know.
So the owner butcher loses, Tommy the butcher, no, not Tommy the butcher, loses his finger and learns his lesson. And I don't know what happened after that. They never filmed the bust out, but that started the bust out. And I don't know. Folks,
I don't think he owned that business too much longer.
No,
maybe,
he didn't. He didn't. And that's exactly what a bust out is. If you can't pay through regular business practices, what the mafia might suggest to do is come in and become your partner. And by becoming your partner, they want you to create all kinds of debt on your company and on yourself and give them all the, windfall from this debt. It could be more meat. It could be trucks. It could be plane tickets. It could be anything. But they basically buy whatever they can get that they can
on
resell
your line of credit.
On your line of credit until you can't pay your line of credit anymore and you go bankrupt. And then you just leave. And then once the place is bankrupt, the mob rolls in again and buys it all back for pennies on the dollar. So that's how they own that building and own that business. And, I explained that to Luke, who's also majoring in accounting. I'm really screwing this kid up. He goes, "Oh, that's really interesting. It's creative." I'm like, no, you can't do that. But yeah, it is. That's a bust out. And it was interesting. But more than interesting is before that episode's over, you see Tony Boy and the mom. I'm not going to remember the mom's name. I know it's not Olivia, but it's something really close to that.
It is Olivia.
No, it's really close to that, but it's not. Because I was saying, wow, wouldn't that be a coincidence? But Liv, but no, it's not. It's something. I looked it up. Mike, you want to look that up?
That's going to bother me.
Yeah, look that up. Lydia could be.
Linda.
We'll get it in a minute. But the scene continues where it's the two sisters and Tony, young Tony, in the kitchen, sitting down waiting for dinner, and the mom takes the roast out of the oven. And while he takes the roast out of the oven, she's like dancing with it a little bit. And the father comes up, Tony Boy, and he's like, "Oh, look at her. She likes her roast, her standing bone-in roast." And he's like kind of, dancing with her and
he's
hugging
sexualizing
her.
it.
Yeah. And then he sticks his little finger into the gravy and pops it in his mouth. What does Tony do? He passes out. That's his first episode when he passes out from stress, if you will. And
hey, Tommy.
Yeah.
Remember the pinky?
And there you go. And that starts it. And then not just the food, but, it's the stress from being in that life, right? That's where it comes from. But it always happens in relationship to food. Like he faints in his kitchen. Why? Because one of his gumads calls on the phone. So the wife's taking the call from the gumad. He's in his T-shirt in the kitchen. He's pulling out a package of Gabagool, and he passes out and hits his head. Another time was he got bad news from one of his captains, and it was during a cookout. He's on the grill. He's got his sausage. He was actually wearing it around the neck, right? His father-in-law or his uncle picks it up every year, and they bring it in. He loves his sausage, and he basically passes out on the grill and almost face plants into the grill, and that was a big issue. So
yeah, food is just, it's just interwoven into that series on so many levels.
Yep.
And I always like to point out, and you and I, we chatted about this before, but how Carmela controls the food at the house, all the cooking and, he's always like, "Hey, did you get some gabagool? Did you make some rigatonis?" You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
She's got him by the short. She knows what makes that guy run.
Yep.
And she's got him by the short and curly.
Yeah, not everything has to be meat. I mean, if you know.
No, it's just food in general sometimes.
The grandmother, we have her name?
Yeah, it's Olivia without the O, so just Livia.
Livia. Okay,
Livia.
Without the O. That's really close to our Olivia boy. Well, she's a representative of the rigatoni. She makes rigatoni all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it actually was when one of the birthday for the son. What the hell's the son's name? Anthony. Anthony was having a birthday, and she called up and said, "Mom's sick. She's not coming." And he's like, what the fuck? No rigatoni now? You know, it's like, it's not, oh, I'm his grandma. I'm not going to get a present. I'm not, she's not going to be on my special day. It's no rigatoni.
Wait, that's
right?
a blow. That's like a, oh.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There was another big one with Ralphie Ciparetti when he's like coming up and there was a problem with one of the dances at the Bing, and it was over Thanksgiving, and it was over. They invited themselves to Thanksgiving. He was a friend of his old buddy's widow, and Ralph Ciparetto was coming for dinner, but instead he gets disinvited actually. And Tony wanted, Tony said, all right, you got to call and tell her we're not coming, not to come, and because we're doing it at Tony's house. He's like, what do you mean not to come? I can't do that. I already, He said, look, you can do it or I can do it, but mine's not going to be nearly as nice as yours, but they disinvited
That's where you get
him.
that.
Yeah, that's it. You'll be a lot happier.
Charlie, you can do it or I can do it. And he's not going to like how I do it.
Yeah. So it is amazing how food, even to the point of, I mean, if you watch the actor, right? What is Jim, what the hell's that?
James Gandolfini.
Gandolfini. Even his experience through the 6 seasons, but I think it was 8 years that the whole thing was produced. He was a tiny guy in the beginning of the show. First episodes, he was thin, he was in shape, he was younger.
Yeah, he just looked like a rugged guy. He didn't look overweight.
Correct, but by the end of the episodes, he
was heavy.
He was heavy. He was really big and heavy, and they that was. I don't think that was by design. I mean, I do know from watching those podcasts that he got his inspiration of playing an Italian mobster by going to Little Italy in New York. So, because they shot a lot in New York and in New Jersey, and he would go down and hang out. Even him and Bobby Bacala, same thing. He put on a ton of weight in the show. So I think down in Little Italy having like feasts of whatever to kind of get both their method acting and their
That's how I want to study for my role.
That's it. That's what other life I want.
Yeah, give me a veal pound sandwich. I'm studying. Studying for a role.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. If
Yeah.
you guys get a chance, I mean, watch. I will definitely tell you to watch that show. It's on HBO. It's called The Sopranos, the podcast, and it's fantastic. And you don't have to watch it. You can listen to it. It's just two heads talking. They do clip in pieces of the show and stuff to kind of drive their point home here and there. But and it's amazing kind of when you watch it too, because you think of Christopher, even though he had some intricacies in the show where he was thinking about writing a script and selling it, and Tony talked him out of it, but then he went back with the Baldwick character, who was the producer of, it was kind of like the Mafia meets the Saw kind of a thing. But anyways, he you would think that him as the nitwit, but he was a learned actor. He has a lot of experience with a lot of the actors that were called up. He gives you you'd be amazed if you see like Tony wasn't supposed to be Tony. Jim Gandolfini wasn't supposed to be Tony. Actually, the first person they were looking for was the actor who played Jackie
Aprile.
Aprile. They wanted him to be Tony, and they were great friends. They knew each other from acting school, and they were great friends. And they were in Hollywood at the same time when they got called in to read for this. And they say, "Hey, look, it's one or the other. We'll figure it out." And sure enough, Jim got the role. But all those stories just come into play. And Bobby Baklava is the complete opposite. He was a comedian. He was a stand-up comic who went in to read for a position, and because of his dialect and his size, I think he got hired quickly. But he knows nothing. He doesn't remember any of the actors. And he's like me. He doesn't know any of the actors' names. He doesn't know where they shot what, why they shot it. And Christopher is kind of breaking down, the foreshadowing in the shows and all that kind of cool stuff. So it's really interesting to watch that. So
Bobby's showing up, doing his bit.
Yeah, and he's
going home at night.
That's it. And it's great because actually the most amazing thing is when they shot the pilot, and then the pilot goes to HBO, and HBO decides if they're going to carry on the first year. And David Chase, when he wrote for he wrote the pilot, and he started writing for the remainder of the first year without knowing. And then he found out we're going to do his season. So he wrote the first year. But what's amazing is they don't know 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, A and B. You don't know if you're going to get those years until later on, year one. So how they tied some of the characters back to each other and the names they use, and it's really interesting how they do that when they don't know. It's like driving a truck in a tunnel, wondering what's on the other end.
Yeah, and you don't know. You don't know until you get that call that you're going to be renewed.
Exactly.
Based on your ratings and all that. I mean, there's been a ton of shows out there that go, one season and leave you hanging, and they never get renewed, and that's just the end of it.
Right. So watch. I highly recommend watch Sopranos. The
food aspect,
podcast.
and I was just thinking just started thinking about all the terrible things that happened and how food was at least in the scene.
Oh yeah.
People getting whacked or just go back and just when you watch this series, just watch how food is involved in a lot of the major instances in this show, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. All right, folks, let's talk about it. World Cup barbecue competition slated for March 2027. This is getting to be real exciting.
I mean, have you the buzz that's going on right now when nobody knows anything really, other than the fact that these guys have assured us that it's going to happen.
Yep.
But they're still in the developmental stage, and nobody really knows anything that's set in concrete.
They don't even know
buzz. Amazing.
Yeah, they don't even know where the competitors are coming from.
Right.
But it is real. They have a website, the BBQ World Cup.com. Go check it out. They have a lot of just brief information there. There's not a total lot of information yet, just because it's still being developed, right? It's great to see the excitement. There are a lot of, not even just the competitors that are excited for obviously that $1 million prize.
You say $1 million in barbecue, you're getting a lot of immediate interest because it's not a type of sport where you're getting a big payday every weekend.
Yep, and you just nailed the word right there, because the producers of this event, that's what they're pushing for. They're trying to make everybody understand that this event is not just a competition. It's not just an event. It's a sport. There's a reason that these competitors are considered equal to sportsmen, and they want to run this whole process through like a sporting season or a sporting event and give everybody a fair shot to win the big prize. This is not $1 million bucket or purse that's going to get divided out among 8 different winners. This is all going to be
a grand prize.
A grand prize, one winner, $1 million. And a lot of this information we're getting just because we're hearing from folks that are sitting on the boards. Right now, what the WCB is doing is they're going out and they're creating groups of knowledgeable people. Some are competitors, some are folks who put these competitions together before, and even people who have or run master classes, because that's a big piece of this. And they're grouping them together and they're having meetings and they're making decisions based on, what's going to make sense for the field, right? For that 100. We say 100, it could be 80 to 100. It's not definitely 100, but 80 to 100 competitors and where they're coming from. What we're hearing is that there's going to be 20 qualifying events that will be denoted. We already know one already, Slamorama, January 16th to the 20th, I think, in Arizona. That's taking place. That is one of the events where the GC, the grand champion, and the reserve grand champion will be the first two people, if you will, to be qualified for the 2027 event. So there's going to be more of that, and that's what they're doing. They're actually going out, they're talking to organizers, they're saying, what areas do you kind of service to have people come from, and they're making sure they're not overlapping or saturating any certain areas too, and that's what they're figuring out. But what we heard is there's going to be 20 qualifiers that'll bring back 40 competitors.
Yep.
So that's the main chunk of it. And then,
Well, when I usually I say what's a red flag, but in this case, it's a good red flag. Is that they really look like they're doing their due diligence. They're getting the most experienced people, the most creative people that have run competitions and run organizations. Because to me, that means they listen. If you got $100 billion, you can throw a world championship barbecue event somewhere,
right.
and just
Right.
throw it out there.
Right.
But these guys, it looks to me like they're doing everything to make this a top flight program and something that's going to carry on into
Absolutely.
the future. And I can't wait to see how it turns out.
Yeah. So then the next piece of folks that'll be invited is they're looking for another 20 people where they're taking the majors in the country, right? The Jack, the Royal, the Houston Livestock Show, and the championship, the
KCBS.
CBA, the Championship Barbecue Alliance, and they're letting those folks run their events, the way they run them, but then they're giving them the opportunity to either nominate 3 to 5 folks from those groups each to go to the main. So there's another 20 people. So you're up to 60, and then the rest are going to be, they want this truly international. So they're looking at international audiences. So they're going to the major international groups to say, okay, how many nominations do you need?
And surprisingly, there's quite a few.
Oh yeah,
there is internationally. Barbecue's become a big thing. And you can, if you want to check out our website, Barbecue News, we've done some pieces on barbecue around the world, and there's a lot of barbecue going on out there.
For sure.
And they're gonna send their best from overseas here.
For sure. So that's how they're going to build this field of, like I said, 80 to 100, and then there you go. And then what's kind of cool is we're starting to get some information. Actually, some of this is authentic. It's from the website. But what they're looking to do is they're trying to make, again, one winner. And to have one winner, you could only run this in heats, right? To kind of make it respectful. So what they're doing, they don't want somebody to cook, hit a bad table, get a bad judge, and not win or not get considered to win just because they got a bad table, right? They want to make this be where they're getting multiple swings at this. So what I'm hearing, and none of this is official, but what I'm hearing is they're going to run 4 different heats day one. They're going to take, heat A, B, C, D, 25 teams in each. And they're going to cook four meats, and they're going to turn in those 4 meats to the, judges for those heats independently. So each, A will go to the A judges, B, C, D, and they will get they will get ranked on those tastes, but they won't get a top dog from that heat. They will pull half the volume out.
Right, and it's like you and I were saying, it sounds kind of like Olympic style, where you've got 100 people that are competing in the 100-meter dash. You can't run them all.
Yep.
You've got to run different heats, and then you take the top 4 times out of those heats. It's the same type of model.
Well, exactly. So you're exactly right. And again, you hit on it again. They're heats, they're sports. This is a sporting event, folks. This is not a barbecue competition. It's not a popularity contest. This is not buy your way in. This is earn your way in, get put in against the best, and then you work. Now you work on 25. They're going to take 12. So they're going to have 4 groups of 12. We're going to have 48 competitors come back to day 2. I heard they were going to do 2, the true Las Vegas way. They're going to take out of those 52 folks that get disqualified in the first day heats. They'll take a hat and they'll draw 2 random folks.
2 wild cards.
They get pushed into second day. And then second day, you'll cook 2 meats and you'll have the same kind of 2 groups, 25 each, and they'll pull 2 groups of 12 from those 25, 50. So you'll get 24 out of the 50 for day 3. Day 3 will be a true cook-off of those 25 competitors. And
they going to do anything with kids? Talk about it?
Yeah, so this is what's cool. So to have because that's a lot of, okay, so if you're a competitor, there's a lot of turn-ins. There's a lot of meat you're cooking. There's a lot of effort in 3 days that they're going to get through, number one. And they're trying to keep it a very whimsical kind of a social environment. So they're having different things go on around the main competition cook. For example, day 2, they're thinking about a celebrity competition.
Nice.
So the 50 teams that get disqualified, DQ day one, will be able to sign up to work with celebrities and maybe some sports celebs that are in and around the area. And they're going to have a little celebrity competition, which is cool for a lot of reasons, right? Because there is a day where day one you can go and they're going to have, like they do with the Super Bowl, you kind of walk around and you see all the teams and all the events of like a showcase of what's going to happen. Day two, you'll be able to walk around this celebrity competition and eat that food. So that food that they're making is going to be stuff that you can eat, buy, and enjoy, and maybe meet some celebrities. And then day three, when it whittles down again on the Sunday, they're thinking about running a kids queue with it. I don't know. Now, again, how do they set that up? Where do they bring in kids from? How do they get picked, selected? You think there's a lot of barbecue teams out there. There's a lot of kids barbecue teams out there. So I don't know how that will work yet. And that's what we know. And really, it's just what we're surmising from different groups.
Yeah, it sounds like we got a lot of detail in there, right? But
yeah, we don't.
This is kind of like just like a framework that they're working with right now, and there's so much to fill in on exactly how they're going to pull this off.
Yeah,
but I envision like almost like a huge like state fair type atmosphere with a ton of stuff for the public, and I don't know, music, and it's going to be in Vegas. I don't know where they're going to do it, but there's plenty of room there.
The most repetitive, intriguing thing I hear from everybody who's talked to us or the podcast that I watched is just how great this is. Like, I guess Sam's Club did something like this years ago, and nobody else has done something since this large on this kind of a scale. And, that's why I think they're trying to nail it down, because I think they want to do it every year. There's going to be 1 in 28, 29, and so forth. But they want to get it right. They want to make sure there's no glitches in it. Obviously, all this effort goes towards something. I don't know if it's a true moneymaker for somebody or what they're raising this money for. In the end, I don't know if they even raising any money, where that financial piece comes from. But it's interesting. We're interested in it. We want to get, we'd love to get more direct line information from one of these groups. And I'm not asking anybody to talk outside of their designated.
Outside of church?
Yeah, I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying that maybe there's a way we can get some direct information that we can echo to our audience, because our audience is interested. And thank you for it. So we got a lot of great comments from you folks last week. I appreciate it. We asked for help. We didn't know much about this. We said, how do we find this out? A couple of you stepped up and gave us some really good information, which is great. So we appreciate that. And we'll get you more as we hear of it. We probably will have a check-in maybe every week, just what we heard new.
Yeah, if we get more information, you'll hear from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Whew, I'm excited.
Me too.
All right.
Let's rock and roll.
Thanks for being here, guys. Another great week. Stay healthy. It's the flu season, A lot of people are getting hooked up.
Yeah, I got a little bit of the bug last week, kind of missed my New Year's Eve party and blah, 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 blah. I recovered strong, but yeah, everybody else in the family's sick, so.
Yeah, it's going around. So stay healthy.
Yep.
And we'll see you next week.
Adios.